Let me be brutally honest. The difference between entrepreneurs who scale to 100K months and those who stay stuck isn't knowledge, strategy, or even work ethic. It's identity. It's who you are, not just what you do. In this video, whether you've seen my other content on this or it's our first time meeting, I'm going to show you the exact implementation tools that transform who you are as an entrepreneur. This isn't theory. These are specific frameworks I've used with clients who've gone from 25K to 100K months, from constantly firefighting to strategic leadership, from burnout to aligned flow. So by the end of this video, you will have a roadmap for breaking through your current revenue ceiling once and for all. But I'm warning you, this isn't for passive consumption. This is for entrepreneurs who are ready to do the work. So I'm Luke Ganning. I spent years developing and refining these implementation frameworks, as well as going through the ringer myself, which you'll learn a little bit later as well. But I've been working with entrepreneurs making 10 to 50K a month who kept hitting ceilings that they couldn't help but break through. These methods I'm about to share with you aren't random ideas. They're carefully crafted protocols that I've tested and refined with clients across every industry. Here's what we're going to cover today. 1, the trigger response protocols, how to catch yourself in moments of stress or indecision and respond from your new identity. 2, the red, yellow, green circle concept, which has massively changed my life within addiction, and it helps many people who are stuck in their patterns as well. The future self manifesto, the resistance clearing process, calendar design and performance habits, and boundary setting frameworks using healthy anger to protect your new identity. So if you implement these tools, you'll experience a profound shift, not just in what you do, but in who you are as an entrepreneur. But I need to warn you, like I said, this video isn't for passive watching. Maybe you're eating dinner, chilling with family, on a walk while listening to this. That's fine, but I want you to go through it and then come back through it again when you can actually do the work, or pause it, go set yourself up on a laptop, whatever you need to do. Don't get distracted now, or better yet, get a notebook and be prepared to take action. So if you haven't done already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. I drop no practical bullshit content every week that can transform your results. So before we start, I know that your brain is already making excuses for why you don't need to do this work. And I was reading the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell the other day, and it reminded me of his 8 concepts called the growth gap trap. So the first growth trap here is what we call the assumption gap. Now, the assumption gap, you assume that you're automatically just going to grow. So it's this like, I assume I'm going to grow. And this happened in my life where actually within building my own systems, where I would just keep operating on the same system over and over and over again, and assuming that that was going to work with me without actually reflecting and changing. Now, I believe everything in life is inputs equals outputs. There's a process to that, and there's a feedback loop. But many people never actually listen to that. They never reflect. They never say, well, hey, like, is what I'm doing right now actually getting me to where I want to go? But this is wrong, because growth happens when you are intentional about it. You have to be intentional about your growth. You can't wait for it to come to you. You can't wait for the right time. You can't wait for things to happen. So this is his first law. It's called the assumption gap. Now, the second part of this here is the knowledge gap, And the problem with the knowledge gap is that many people learn from the school of hard knocks, which is the road of doing it by yourself, of trialing and testing and iterating and doing it just by yourself. Probably the worst way to actually grow and implement on anything that you want. Why? Because if you value your time at any sort of level, why would you try and do it all by yourself when there's literally experts out there that have done what you needed to do and more, and you could just pay for that? So if you don't know where to start, just go and pay for the help. Go and get books, go and listen to trainings like you're doing right now. Go and get help. The third gap that he talks about in his book is the timing gap. And the timing gap is trying to wait for that perfect time, the perfect opportunity, when everything falls into your lap, like saying like, oh, I'll just wait until this happens and then I'm going to change and do it then. And in his book, he talks about the longer you wait to do something, the greater the odds are that you'll never, ever do it. This is why there's a famous speaker called Les Brown who says that the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard, because this is where ideas, dreams, inventions, miracles could have been created, but they never were because people were waiting for the right time. Now, the fourth gap here is the mistake gap. And the mistake gap here is trying to do everything without avoiding any mistakes whatsoever. But the challenging thing here is this is just your ego talking. This is just your ego trying to keep you safe. What you're really saying when you're trying to avoid mistakes is you're afraid of acknowledging that you don't know everything. You're just afraid of making a mistake and being wrong. not. But you need to admit you don't need everything in order for you to go and actually seek the knowledge to go and grow. Now, the fifth gap here in John's book is the perfectionist gap. It's the idea of like, oh, I need to find the best way to do this. I need the best way to grow. I need the most perfect solution. Oh, I need to get this just right before I get going or before I hire this person or whatever. But here's the thing. Whilst you're doing that, your competitors are still accelerating, still growing, and taking what is yours. Imperfect action is growth. The sixth part of this growth gap he talks about is the inspiration gap. The inspiration gap. So this is when you get into that energy of like, oh, I'm only going to do this when I feel motivated, or I'm only going to do this when I feel inspired. But what you need to realize is success comes from commitment, not feelings. You likely know that because you're watching this video. But at the same time, there are times that have happened, I'm sure, if you look back over the last few weeks, few months, few years, where you haven't felt like doing something, and then that's led you to being stuck, right? So we need to be committed, not inspired. 7 that he talked about was the comparison gap. And the comparison gap is looking at all the other people that you know in your network. Maybe they've got more followers, maybe they've got more going on, and saying, oh, like I can't do it because this person's doing it, or oh, this person's more successful. And what this does is it keeps you inside of your comfort zone. It doesn't allow you to grow from this full, small little bit here to expansion, to help in the vision, to help in the people that you care about, to help in grow the world in some kind of way. So the comparison gap is something that you need to be aware of, and it's something that we need to create a strategy to get away from. Number 8, lastly, is the expectation gap. And this is expecting things to be easier than they were. So it's like, oh, I thought this would be easier than it is right now. But here's the thing. What you can only do here in real actual fact is focus on the inputs. Sure, you can aim for an output, but you can't expect to get to where you want to get to if you don't put your foot on the pedal. I've got this really brilliant analogy from a coach a while ago, which was manifestation minus action equals delusion. So if you're like, hey, I want to get to 50, 100K, even 20K, so 20K, 50K, 100K months, but you're not doing anything about it, or you're not focused on showing up, it's not going to happen. So if I think about it, which of these gaps is keeping you stuck right now? How many more months are you willing to actually stay at your current level? How much money are you leaving on the table every month by not changing? And if you're thinking, oh, I can't be bothered, you've already lost. Get out of your own way. This is not the video for that. Cut that fucking shit out of your head right now. So if you're still with me, let's actually turn your knowledge into real change. So what happens in your circuits, in your brain, is you get triggered by having some sort of thing happen. Then there's a response, might be a certain feeling, overwhelm, scarcity, anxiety, self-doubt, lack of confidence, whatever that is. That's going to lead into an action, that's going to lead into a habit, and then you're reinforcing that pattern every single time that you operate in it. So I'm not going to go out here and say, oh yeah, you need to avoid the triggers and be in airy, wary fairyland. Like, triggers are going to happen, not bullshit. Things are going to happen. But what we can do and what we can bring our power back is we can change our response, we can change our action, and we can change our habits. And that's what we're going to do, is through the trigger response protocol, show you how to do that. And what I've noticed is there's this very, very critical point, is that when you're triggered, you have a 2 to 5 second window right after a trigger occurs. If you can intervene during this tiny window, you can completely change your outcomes. But if you miss it, you may default to your old patterns automatically. And what's even more interesting is that just knowing about your triggers isn't enough. The clients who see the biggest breakthroughs are those who create specific written plans for each trigger. And they have a database of all their triggers, and then they have a database of actions that they do instead. And what this solves for you is those questions of like, why do I know what to do but still don't do it? How do I stop overthinking every decision? Why do I keep falling back into old patterns when things get stressful? How do I stop jumping in to fix everything when my team makes mistakes? Why do I put off the exact tasks that would grow my business? This is what having this protocol is going to help you answer. So here's how to implement the trigger response protocol. Step 1 is you're going to identify your triggers. So there are specific situations that activate your old patterns. For the doer versus decision maker shift, triggers might include feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list, a team member making a mistake, an unexpected problem in your business. For each identity shift that you're looking to make, you're going to be wanting to write down specific triggers. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, but Luke, what's the identity shift? So then I recommend that you check out the previous training that I did on who you need to become to break through your revenue ceiling, or the 5 identity shifts in order to break you through. But to gloss over these now, 1 is from doer to decision making. Number 2 is being from reactive to strategic. Number 3 is from expert into leader. Be a leader of leaders, not just an expert. Number 4 is from perfectionism to iteration. And number 5 is from lone wolf to pack leader. Again, I'm glossing over these. Go back through the other video and then come back into this one. But for each of these shifts that you're looking to make, you want to be identifying your triggers. What is going on? You also want to be looking at, where in my marketing do I get triggered? Where in my finances do I get triggered? Where, when I try to scale, do I get triggered? What happens in my day-to-day where I get triggered? Maybe in my relationship as well. In my personal relationship with myself, my personal relationship with other people. What are my triggers? And then step 2 is we need to create your trigger awareness system. So your brain needs to notice these triggers in real time. So you need to have some form of written plan. You'll see on my notes here, I have written down what those triggers are so that I can be wary of it when I do get triggered, that I'm like, oh, I'm triggered. Now I go and do something else, rather than, oh, I'm triggered, into pattern, right? So that's step 2. You need to have physical reminders of what's going on. The key is to create something that makes you notice what you're doing. And then step 3 is you need to develop your response plan. So for your trigger, you need to have a 60-second response plan. This might include like a question that shifts your thinking, like, hey, what would my future self do? Or what would a 50 or 100K a month CEO do? Or it might look like a physical movement. You might stand up, take deep breaths. It might be a specific action that matches your new identity. For me, I'll sometimes put on AC/DC Thunderstruck and I'm just sit there with that because it just gets me pumped up. It allows me to release energy and it allows me to, boom, get straight back on. Because these triggers are going to happen. You're going to notice these physical sensations in your body. You might get tension in your shoulders. You might get your stomach tightened. You might get tension in your legs. And you're going to need to actually take a moment. That moment might be excusing yourself to get some water, excusing yourself to go to the toilet, and then just going, just pre-prepared response about what that thing is you're going to do. So have a think about now, what's the most common trigger that sends you back to your old identity? And what exactly happens in your body and mind when this trigger hits? If you're finding value in this content so far, make sure to hit subscribe button and give this video a like. It's going to help more entrepreneurs just like you find this content, and I'd really appreciate it. So once you've identified that stuff, I want to break down another concept that is super, super helpful, which is the red, yellow, green circle concept. Now, in my work with entrepreneurs, as well as myself, I've noticed a clear pattern. Those who break through revenue ceilings aren't necessarily working more hours. They're also spending their time on completely different activities than those who stay stuck. You don't need to be hustling all the time. You're like a high performance athlete. You need to go in, do your athlete's work, and then recover, rest, and recharge effectively. That means not scrolling on your phone as a rest. And for me, this red, yellow, green circle concept got formed by when I was going through my addiction. And I was in this addiction because addictions, just long story short, are using something as a coping mechanism to avoid feeling a certain way. For me, that feeling was bored, lonely, feeling the trauma that I hadn't processed, all of this stuff, all of this noise that made me a successful entrepreneur for sure, but also made me chaotic. And so within being vulnerable with you, within having a sex and porn addiction, like throughout my life, it was horrible. Like I had that for what, 15 years, like until I actually got sober. And that sobriety took a minute. And this was one of the best concepts that I learned. And what I realized with entrepreneurs is many entrepreneurs are actually addicted to their current patterns. That doesn't need to be pornography. That is like addicted to staying their same self, addicted to controlling everything, addicted to people pleasing or being a weaker version of themselves that they know isn't going to get them to where they want to get to. And the brilliant thing about this concept is it answers these questions of, why do I feel busy all day but don't see results? How do I know which tasks I should delegate? Why do I always feel like I'm being really reactive? Because you're able to take the space to be able to reflect and grow. You're able to take space that's going to create inspiration for your mind, that's going to allow you to go network with other high value people, get new ideas. So let's break this down together. So here we have your red, your yellow, and your red, your yellow, your green circle. And these are coming under your activities, your thoughts, your perception. So your green circle is your zone of genius. Your zone of genius. So this can be strategic planning, and can be doing thinking, having visionary time, can be key client relationship, content that needs your unique voice, just that high level CEO frame or deep level work blocks where you've got to build out a new entire system, right? Your goal is to spend more and more time in this green circle energy. The yellow activities are activities that you're doing, thought patterns that are happening that are important, but are delegatable activities. So this might look like client delivery that could be systemized. It might look like content editing and posting. It might look like team management. It might look like sales calls that somebody else could handle. It might look like tasks that you need to train other people to do, but ultimately you could get rid of if you really needed to. And then red circle activities are those $5, $10, $20, even $5K projects, $10K projects, $20K projects that are below your pay grade. Might look like admin tasks, basic customer service, technical stuff, research that could have been delegated. Might look like editing videos if you're still doing that and you're a high-level CEO. Now, how to implement this is you're going to want to draw this circle on your page. You don't need fancy colors like I do, just 3 circles, one that's an inner one that's an outer one, and one that's a super outer one. And you want to look at your calendar for the last week, and you want to have a think about what activities did I do that were in each of these categories, and also have a look at going forward for this week. What does that look like? Now, you might not even have a calendar yet, so tune in for later in this video. I want you to just think about out loud right now, or write down out loud right now over what you have been doing over the last month and stuff. Have a think about red, yellow, green circle. Where does this fit in? Yellow is things that you could delegate and are important. Red is things that you absolutely should not be doing. Green is where you should be spending most of your time. Now, there's also another one here that is going to help you with your self-sabotage and identity shifts, which is a personal one. So we have a business specific red, yellow, green circle, and then we have a personal one, which is more so. Now, your personal red, yellow, green circle, it comes actually down to those self-sabotaging behaviors that you shouldn't be doing. So within the red circle, these are the absolute no-nos, the absolute things that you should not be doing. It should be like, might look like staying up too late. It might look like scrolling. It might look like contacting team members just before you're going to bed, or picking up your phone as soon as you wake up. I want you to list out all the activities as well as all the toxic habits and feelings that go in towards that. Now, feelings aren't toxic, but they are triggers for you within that red space. Now, the yellow one here, now your yellow circle are things that you may do or may need to do and can't be completely eliminated that may trigger you and go into red. So for example, when I was struggling with my addiction, a yellow circle activity was scrolling my phone, because that would lead to dopamine. Eventually there would be something pop on my screen that would trigger me from the past. Like, might have just been like somebody talking about like a breakup thing, and then that reminded me of another unprocessed thing that I wasn't prepared to face, and then that would step me into red. But for you want to be thinking about what are the thoughts, the feelings, the scenarios, the people that you may have to spend time with, you may not want to spend time with, but are things that are going to trigger you and get you into red. And then lastly, we have the green circle activities for your personal red, yellow, green circle that are things that you could do as an alternative. So that might be breath work. It might be listening to music. It might be going for an exploration around your city or around your area. It might be going for a walk. It might be going to the gym. It might be having a healthy diet. It might be just what are all the healthy things that you could do if you got triggered in yellow that could allow you to start regulating so that you don't move into red, right? Like for me, I have a weekly massage scheduled. I have a weekly cold plunge that I have to go and do. Blessed, I have it at my gym, but that's why I chose the gym that I have, because they have a cold plunge. And I use all my regular practices like shift, like craft, all the frameworks that we've taught within neuroproductivity that I've talked about in some of my other trainings, and I will talk about some more in here as well. But I have that regularly set in my calendar so that I can continually regulate. I don't just go to the first gap, the first knowledge gap, which is the first growth gap, which is the assumption gap, that if I just do this thing once, I'm going to be fixed. I don't do that. And that's what leads me into this, where it's like, how long have you been trying to break through your current ceiling? How long have you had these patterns that don't serve you? How many courses, programs, coaches have you invested in already? How many books have you read? How many podcasts have you consumed? And yet you are still here, still stuck at the same level. So you have 2 options right now. Option 1 is you can keep trying to figure this out by yourself, keep paying with your time, which is actually your most valuable asset, and keep experimenting and keep making mistakes and keep hitting the same walls. Or option 2, you can pay with money instead of time and get the exact roadmap personalized to your specific situation from somebody who's helped hundreds of entrepreneurs make these exact shifts. And here's the truth. You're paying either way. The question is, is which is more expensive right now for you. Another 6 to 12 months of trial and error, or an investment that could shortcut your process entirely. And this is why I've created the NeuroProductivity Elite, specifically for entrepreneurs like you who are done with playing small and ready for dramatic transformation. It's not just another program, it's a complete system for rewiring your entrepreneurial brain for breakthrough results. And here's what it includes. You get weekly one-to-one calls with me personally, not some junior coach, but me at the time of making this video, where we'll identify your specific identity blocks and create custom implementation plans. We've got 2 group clinics coming every single week where you'll mastermind with our community of 6 and 7 figure business owners who are making these shifts as well. You also get half yearly retreats where we deep dive into your business and mindset in an immersive environment. And you also get Monday to Friday 24/7 Slack support directly from me. So when you hit a wall, I'm there to help you break through it. We can literally break you out in just a couple minutes. And also you get done for you vision building from our team. So we'll create concrete tools for you that are going to be needed for your identity shift. Now, let me be crystal clear who this is for. You're already making 10 to 50K a month, but you know you're capable of much more. You're coachable, ready to implement, not just collect more information. You understand that strategy alone isn't enough, but mindset is the real game changer. And you're willing to be uncomfortable and face the real issues holding you back. And ultimately, you're an action taker who follows through when given in the right direction. So I'm not interested in working with tire kickers or excuse makers. I only work with people who are all in on their transformation, since I am all in with you. So if that's you, link to apply is in the description. When you apply, we'll have a quick chat to make sure that you're a perfect fit for this program. We oftentimes say no more than we do yes, but ask yourself, if not this, then what? If not now, then when? How much longer are you willing to stay stuck in the same patterns? And it's going to take you less than 5 minutes to complete it. So just do it now whilst you feel some motivation. But for those of you who want to continue implementing these frameworks on your own, let's move on to the next tool. So future self manifesto. So after working with hundreds of entrepreneurs, what I've really realized is that the people who step into their future, this is going to sound so logical to you, but your brain doesn't think like this, is the people who go from where they're currently at into their future self are the people that cross the bridge into it. But here's the thing, you need to actually have a very, 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 very clear picture of who this future version of yourself is. Otherwise, you don't know which bridge to cross, and you might end up in some other direction, some other road. And this is why when people want to get to where they want to get to, they end up going in this whole like messy direction, looking at other people and being like, why is that person more successful than I am? Even though we've got the same frameworks. It's because you weren't following the pathway, both from an internal perspective and that affecting your external. So first, we need to ask, like, who are you at this version of yourself? Who is this future version of yourself? What are they motivated by? Because what motivates you now is not going to motivate you when you get there. There's 4 different drivers of motivation. 1 is madness. 2 is individuality. Like, madness is trying to prove someone wrong. Individuality is having the Ferrari, having the nice lifestyle, having something different. I'm literally in like a jungle cabin right now in Bali. We have purpose, where people like follow your purpose. That can be part of your motivation. It's not for everybody. And then the last one is advancement, getting to that next level, like feeling like you're leveling up. Right? All of these are different drivers. So you're going to need to know what drives this future version of yourself. Like, what are they inspired by? Who are they? How do they think? How do they feel? What do they no longer tolerate? What were they sick and tired of and did they get rid of in their past life? Who have they helped? How worthy do they feel of their achievements? How successful do they feel? How proud of themselves are they? How confident are they? How do they represent themselves? What beliefs and feelings do they have? What habits do they have? What behaviors do they have? What is their environment like? There's a few steps to this. So step 1 is, once you have identified who that person is, step 2 is going to be looking at, okay, what daily behaviors are going to anchor in this? And what daily beliefs do I need to anchor in this? So what daily beliefs, what daily habits anchor in my future identity? And this could be like how you communicate. It could be morning or evening routines, but it could just be how you communicate with other people. Then step 3 is we start tweaking your environment to match this, to match the future identity. So what things that is in your environment no longer serves you? I literally had one of my students who went from 50K a month to 50K a week, cleared out a TV subscription that didn't serve her anymore, that she'd been holding on to for years. Like, these are the micro things that weigh you down and are part of your past, not part of who you're becoming. And this may seem so like minimal, but think how many like things you've put off that you know is holding you back from who you need to be. But it's also very importantly, what boundaries do you have? And this is boundaries with yourself, like boundaries for your thoughts. Maybe you've set a boundary, you're like, I'm no longer checking email before 10 a.m. I'm no longer doing this before that. A boundary I set with myself was no more, hey, I'll just do this later. I'll figure this out later, or I'll do that. Like, it's like, no, I've scheduled it. I've committed to it. It's why my girlfriend is now my personal assistant, because some of these micro decisions I didn't want to handle. And I was like, hey, let's just go and get her to do it. And that was an environment and boundary I wanted to set up so that we could step into this identity of me traveling full time rather than being in one place all the time. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to experience the world. And I'm sure you do as well, but also have a business and a relationship that supports that. So that's what I did. And then step 4 is how you daily reinforcing that, is the daily reinforcement and the weekly reflection of it. So we have a daily practice and a weekly practice, and we track this. So this needs to be tracked. Are you doing these things or not? And you need to be tracking this so that you don't make it about yourself and not doing it. You don't get in that pattern where you're like, hey, I'm going to do this habit for 21 days and then, oh, it didn't work. It's not a part of me. It doesn't work. But actually, habits take on average 66 days to form, somewhere between the 21 to 135 day mark. So we need to track these things for a long time so that they're instilled as a part of your being, and then that forms your identity, and then everything shifts from there. And one of the best tips that I can use, like when you actually go and write your manifesto, is do it from a place of calm confidence, not desperate wanting. Like a really good thing that you can do is I have a video on my channel, Manifest Anything in 24 hours. If you can put yourself into that future visualization state before you go ahead and do that, I usually do this live with my clients, then it's going to be so much more magical for you when you actually write it. It's going to be a place of this coming from you and not just somebody else's vision. So yeah, we recommend that. Checking out that video as well. Now, what I want to be doing is actually clearing out the inner resistance. So like I drew that drawing earlier, yes, it's all well and good having the current self. Yes, it's all well and good having the future self and having your identity there and having your daily practices, but your brain's rewiring in this process. And we're going to be doing some level of like quantum leaping. This is going to be a big jump here. So we need to have systems to stop your mind going back to who you were before, because I'm sure you've tried different things in the past. So one of the most overlooked aspects of implementation is the inner resistance that fights to keep you in your comfort zone. And then in my years of working with entrepreneurs at this level, I've noticed a really fascinating pattern. And we've got it down to 11 questions essentially. And these 11 questions are all the inner resistance that surface. What's most interesting is that this resistance isn't logical, it's deeply physical and emotional. I've watched entrepreneurs who intellectually want growth, but actually self-sabotage right before a breakthrough because a deeper part of them actually feels threatened by change. And what's most interesting is that this resistance is easily handled logically when we actually acknowledge it. So understanding its protective purpose and then consciously choosing a new response. And this is the work that stops these questions of like, why do I start strong and lose steam after a few days? Or why can I not be consistent? Or how do I stop self-sabotaging right when things are going well? Or how do I overcome this weird exhaustion that hits when I'm about to level up? And the signs that inner resistance is sabotaging you is 1, you start strong but lose momentum after a few days. 2, you feel physically uncomfortable when stepping into your new identity. 3, you find yourself thinking this isn't really for me, or this feels fake. Or 4, you feel unusually tired when working on any sort of personal growth activities. And 5, you start creating drama in other areas of your life. I used to have this team member that her sabotage happened all the time. Anytime that there was some extra stress going on, there would be arguments at home, there would be migraines, there would be asthma attacks, there would be all these different things happening. And when we dove into it, it was like, oh, there's actually some self-sabotage resistance going on. At its surface level, we use SHIFT, which stands for spot the negative thought, halt and question it, investigate new alternative perspectives, form new rational thoughts, and then train the brain. Now, this is the more surface level stuff that we do when we initially get going with people when they're just first getting into mindset work. So that's spotting the negative thought. You might look at is like, what exactly are you resisting right now? And name that specific action, specific thought that's going on. And then when you halt, you want to ask like, is this thought factual, or is this based on assumptions? Is this thought helpful or harmful? Or am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, which is an anxiety framework that I learned from Dr. Daniel Amen 4 years ago. As you're going to, like an investigator, actually look at that resistance, that thought, and understand, like, hey, what's going on here? Like, what evidence do I have that this is actually real? And then what evidence do I have against it? And you want to stack as much evidence as possible against that negative thought. Then once you have those new irrational thoughts, you're going to get into the actual formation of the new rational thoughts. But it might look like, I'm actually safe right now, or I understand that this negative thought is just keeping me in my comfort zone and I'm ready to step forwards anyway. And the T is, we're going to train the brain. So we're just going to repeat. So that's one element of clearing the resistance. But the other is my 11 resistance question. And these come into creating a rating around how much do you desire your goals right now? How safe does it feel for you to have it? I have mine up here, like I told you earlier, visual cues. How much do you deserve it? How worthy do you feel of having it? How much do you expect it to happen? How much do you believe you can have it? How much do you trust yourself to have it? How much do you trust yourself to hold it? So once you have your 50K a month, how much do you trust yourself to stay there? How much are you allowing yourself to have it? A lot of high performers really struggle with the question of, like, hey, how much are you allowing yourself to have your goal? How confident are you about your goals? And how surrendered are you to your goals? Or how much do you trust God or the universe, whatever you believe in? Some people resonate with the question surrender, but other people with the God or universe. Now, if any of these questions, when you rate them, you're going to close your eyes, put your hand on your heart and say, okay, how much do I desire it? 8. Okay, so if I'm an 8, what's holding me back from an 8? And then you're going to get the answer, and then listen to your intuition, your heart, your chest. Okay. Or even your future self here, or even God, whatever resonates most with you. And then you're going to ask what is going to get me closer to a 9 or a 10? And you're going to do this for every single one. And this is a really powerful framework. When I step this in and do this one-to-one with clients, oh my gosh, like the breakthroughs that we have, and then we're able to take that stuff and put it into a strategy and action plan to actually get them out. Oh my gosh, crazy results. And this is what puts me into the next section here, which is, before I go into the next section, little question for you, which is going to help you with this resistance already, is what success are you secretly afraid of? Like, if you became the 50K a month or 100K a month entrepreneur, business owner that you say that you want to be, what would you have to give up or lose? What do you fear might happen? Be brutally honest with yourself. You might fear partner may leave you because you grow. You may feel like you'll lose all your friends. There's some deep questions there. There's some stuff that you're going to have to work on. That's why we encourage working with somebody that knows what they're doing, so that you can actually clear past that, because that might not even be reality. Like when we moved into this place and now we're going to be upgrading and going into a new place, I initially had some resistance. My body was like, I'm not ready for this. You've jumped in too early. I don't even know if this like relationship is solid yet. Like you've only known her for like a couple months and you're doing all this. Like these are all the limiting resistance. And if I'd listened to that, I might have exited the relationship. I might have exited the rental agreement. Like there might have been so many things that happened, but I was like, no, this is just resistance. I'm going to move forwards. So I'm going to keep growing. So now the next section here is calendar design and performance habit. And let's talk about one of the most tangible implementation tools. So you want to design your calendar. This is part of your environment, is designing your calendar to reflect your future identity. After working with so many people here, after transforming the results, I've noticed something critical. Your calendar isn't just a scheduling tool. It's a physical manifestation of who you are. If your calendar doesn't match your identity and you're trying to create, you're going to stay stuck. So what I've consistently observed is that entrepreneurs who break through revenue ceilings structure their time fundamentally different than those who stay plateaued. They don't just work more hours, they actually work fewer, but arrange those hours in a completely different pattern. And when they're scheduling things in their calendar, they're very specific, very intentional. It's not just content creation. It's not just team meeting. There's steps to it, like a recipe for success. Like when you make a chocolate cake, if I'm going to like say, hey, come and make me a chocolate cake. If you're a smart entrepreneur, you probably delegate it. But even with that delegation process, you're going to be like, okay, with Luke's, like how many people is it for? Is he allergic to anything? Is it a double chocolate cake, triple chocolate cake? Oh my gosh, I'm hungry right now. And you're going to start thinking all these different things, all these different questions. Whereas if I gave you a template, a Loom video, and an example of exactly how to do it, you'd be like, okay, cool. It's the same with the things that go in your calendar. They need to be very, very specific. That's going to help your brain trust the process and you be way more efficient. Most people don't do this. And that's why they wonder, why do I never have time for strategic work? Why am I always scattered and tired all the time? Why do I work so many hours, but things don't get done? Or they're asking themselves, how do I create more space for the work that actually grows my business? And why do I at the end of the day feel like I've not accomplished anything important? So the first thing you need to do when you create this calendar is ask yourself, what would a high performance athlete have? Intentional performance blocks, recovery periods as strict boundaries. The world's best athletes aren't staying up super late. They're on track with everything. So it's the same for you. Are you taking meetings before 10 a.m.? If so, maybe you're sacrificing your most creative, strategic morning hours. So you're designing a calendar for a reactive employee, not a visionary CEO. Is your schedule completely unstructured with flow time all day? And that might feel free, but you may be looking at your schedule thinking, well, yeah, I have a lot of freedom right now, but I'm stagnant. Like I've been at the same revenue mark for the last few months or years. And that's probably not what you want either. And there's a reason you're not making 50K plus months. The highest performers have clear power blocks for their most important voice. Have you blocked time for physical fitness and key relationships? If not, you're designing a calendar for someone who will eventually burn out. Energy management is going to be so key to your time management. And second is you're going to design your calendar like a professional athlete designs their training schedule. So performance blocks, you're going to want to have 90-minute focus sessions for your highest leverage green zone activities with no interruptions. Maybe that's 60 minutes for you. Maybe that's 2 hours for you. Again, you're going to need to find what works for you. And that's what we do over here in NeuroProductivity Elite. But you're also going to want recovery blocks, so intentional periods for mental and physical recharge, like not just random blocks that happen when you're exhausted. Not like, oh, I've hustled. No, I need a break. It's like, you don't want to be taking a week-long week off because you're burnt out and your adrenaline and cortisol has spiked so high and you didn't take a break and you're underslept. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be actively doing it so you can stay consistent. You want to consistently grow in business. You need to be consistent yourself. So boundary windows. You want to be having specific times when you're available to others versus completely unavailable for deep work. You'll know the more successful you get, the more people are going to be desiring your time. Bali is a beautiful place. There's constantly people saying, hey, I'd love to catch up with you. I'd love for you to do this. Love for you to do this. I don't do that. I meet people on Saturday mornings when I'm spending intentional recharging time with other men within my space, or Thursdays. That's it. Outside of that, the time is not there. You could arguably say Sunday as well at church, but that's church. And I have my intentional time for my spiritual practice as well. So have a think, if somebody looked at your calendar right now, would they see the schedule of a 10K a month entrepreneur or a 100K a month entrepreneur? Is your calendar designed for who you are becoming and who you want to become? Now, I know I highlighted boundaries a little bit earlier, but I want you to think about boundaries as something different. So boundary setting is so critical, boundary setting framework. So the final implementation tool that we're going to use to step you into future identity is the protective system for your new identity. There's a very clear pattern here. Those who struggle to scale almost always have weak or inconsistent boundaries. Those who break through revenue ceilings have strong, clear boundaries that they maintain consistently. And it's fascinating because entrepreneurs with strong boundaries actually command more respect from clients, team members, and even family. Meanwhile, those with weak boundaries think they're being accommodating, think they're being nice, but end up being respected less. And the most interesting thing to me is entrepreneurs who have a healthy relationship with anger, which is learning how to channel it to set boundaries, to say, hey, no, I can appreciate you wanting to do this, are consistently outperforming those who avoid conflict or try to please everyone. And you might be thinking why do people constantly interrupt me and waste my time? How do I stop being resentful about my business and my clients and the people around me? Why do I feel drained at the end of each day with nothing to show for it? How do I get clients and team members to respect my time and energy? You need to respect yourself. Boundaries are not about the other people. It's about the boundaries for your vision, to stay on the path. Think this is your pathway. This is going to have, imagine you go to a bowling alley when you first get started. You might have the sides up, or when you first started riding a bike, if you're ever blessed with a bike when you're a kid, you might have stabilizers on the side. Those are boundaries to keep you on the path, to hit the target, to hit the goal. But as an adult, you're not doing this. You're not setting yourself appropriate boundaries. And these boundaries need to be things that you'll no longer tolerate from yourself. So you need to create a specific not anymore list and behaviors you're drawing a line under, stuff that you're getting rid of. Examples, I'll not check my email before completing my morning routine, or I will not work past 7 p.m. You need to set very clear consequences for breaking these boundaries as well. This is why I like to have accountability. One of the masterminds that was at a week or so ago, one of the lads didn't complete his YouTube target for the amount of YouTube videos he was meant to have out. So then he had to buy breakfast for everybody. So there's a very clear boundary for everything being set. There's a very clear frame. And you can use calendar blocks to actually physically protect your time as well. You might put in your calendar no bookings. If you are still taking calls with your team, then they can book on your calendar, or clients can book on your calendar. You might just set a clear off time. Other boundaries might look like what you'll no longer tolerate from others. So define specific behaviors from clients, from teams, from family that undermine your new identity, and create scripts for communicating these boundaries clearly. One of the frameworks that I taught within my old business partnership was SBIC. So situation, behavior, impact, and C being coaching, a positive question. So situation was, when you do X, and behavior was, and I observe you doing Y, impact, it creates X, and ultimately this means Z. Positive, how can we maybe make a change? What do you feel like we could do differently? Positive is like, how can we keep this up? So this was a framework that we created around leadership to maintain the professional relationship, to retain that outer boundary of doing the right thing, being in the right energy, of holding the leadership identity for the team. So you need to practice saying no without explaining or justifying yourself. There's energy boundaries as well, with what environments and influences you'll limit. Look at your physical and your digital spaces. Like if you look at where you're sat right now, is it a fucking mess? Like you can see, like from behind me, everything is very neat and clear. Why? Because my environment is a physical manifestation of what's going on in your mind. And as somebody with ADHD, like I can't have more chaos in my environment. I have to have very neat, tidy spaces. Otherwise, it just increases my layer of stress, and then I make less smart decisions, and that impacts everybody. So you need to design your environment to support your highest identity. So the benefits of this is you establish yourself. As the benefits of stronger boundaries are, you actually establish a routine within your environment that sets you up for daily success. You stop getting walked all over and start respecting your time and energy. You attract higher level connections. Like I've literally built relationships with 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs in the gym because I just hold myself differently. You naturally step into your leadership and others want to follow you. And you make decisions from a place of power, not obligation. When one of my clients stepped away from being reactive and strategic, she was able to have team members come into her business and handle all the managerial things rather than her do the managing, do the operating, do the CEO stuff. That allowed her to take a deep breath and actually say, you know what? Yeah, we can put our foot to the floor and go to the next level rather than just trying to rescue where we're at and trying to maintain where we're at. And it's allowed her to build in systems for her finances, systems for her marketing and sales team, because she's been able to step into that strategic role again rather than being reactive in the moment. And the tough love part of this here is your current results perfectly reflect your current boundaries. If you're overworked, it's because your boundaries allow it. If you're underpaid, it's because your boundaries accept it. So today we've brought together 6 powerful implementation tools. 1, the trigger response protocol. 2, the red, yellow, green circle. 3, the future self manifesto. 4, the resistance clearing process. 5, calendar design and performance habits. And 6, the boundary setting framework. A daily implementation practice of this might look like a morning practice of 15 to 20 minutes. You read your future self manifesto, you review your red, yellow, green circle. You might have a midday reset, which might look like checking with your identity. Who have you been being today? What would your future self advise you to do right now? And you might course correct if needed using the trigger response protocol. And you might celebrate moments where you've embodied your new identity. And then you have an evening integration, which might take 10 minutes, where you review times where you successfully showed up as your new identity. You identify any resistance that came up and use the clearing process. And you set intentions for tomorrow based on what you learned today. And the key is consistency over intensity. This 20-minute practice of embodying all of these things can shift way more than having the consistent loops that you've been in and doing an occasional 3-hour deep dive. And remember, identity shifts don't just happen in huge leaps. They happen in small moments of choice that you repeat day after day. You don't just wake up one day as a new version of yourself. You just have to step into it every single day and act as if you're that person and build on that week over week, month over month, track, reflect, have guidance along the way so that you stay the path. And if it's resonated with you as you're going through this, I want you to consider what the difference would be if you actually got personal help implementing all of this as well. Now, the link to apply for NeuroProductivity Elite is in the description. But before you close this video, commit to 1 implementation step you're going to take in the next 24 hours. Type it in the comments below, make it public. That creates another layer of accountability. And remember, your business will never outgrow your identity. But when you transform who you are being, your results transform automatically. So with that said, I'll see you on the other side of your transformation.